it's Liz from Cook to Feed, and today we're talking Christmas leftovers. As I'm sure you know, food waste is a huge problem, not just for your pockets, for the environment as well. So here's a couple of ideas that I do regularly with leftover roast dinner. And in this case, it's a leftover Christmas roast. Okay, so what I've got left is fairly typical. I've got a load of stuffing left, and then loads of different roast vegetables. I've also got some leftover gravy and a little bit of toffeta left over from my toffeta and cranberry parcels that I did as a little starter. First thing I'm going to do is get all the vegetables out and make them into a farinata. So it's a bit like a frittata, but it's made with chickpea flour instead of eggs. And it's really nice served hot or cold. So I'm going to do one now and then chop it up and pop it into boxes in the fridge for packed lunches. And then with the stuffing, I'm going to make Swedish style meatballs. I'll use the stuffing and the gravy. So the gravy, I'm going to just add a dash of oat cream into it to make it a nice Swedish style creamy gravy, and serve it with mash. And that's what we'll have for dinner, and then that'll be all of the leftovers used up. So the first job is to make the batter for the farinata. Okay, so I've got some chickpea flour, also known as brown flour, and a mixing jug. Okay, so it's about 1 to 1 or 1 to 1 and a bit. So 1 part chickpea flour and 1 and a bit parts warm water. The warm water going in. We'll just give that a whisk. So it's always good to do the batter first when you're making a farinata, because the longer it has to hydrate in the water, the better. You can even make the batter the night before if you want to. Okay, so give that a really good whisk and then season it. So I always add a little glug of good olive oil and then just plenty of salt and pepper. And you can also add other things if you like, some chopped fresh herbs or some spices, a bit of smoked paprika or whatever. Okay, so just make sure you've got into all the corners and the bottom of the jug. Give it a really good whisk. And then I'm going to put that to one side while I prep the filling. So I've got this oven safe dish that I'm going to cook the farinata in. So I'm just going to line it with a little glug of olive oil. And then get the veg chopped up and into the pan. So you can put it all in there, the sprouts, any leftover roast potatoes, roast carrots, roast beetroot, parsnips. It's all good stuff. So I've got a load of carrots going in, and some whole roast red cabbage. It's all good. Roast squash going in. Just slice it up. Okay, so they've got all the chopped veg. I'm just going to spread it out, make sure it's kind of evenly spread, so each wedge will get a bit of each type of veg. And give that a final whisk and then just pour it over all the veg. We'll drizzle of olive oil on top. Some black pepper. And I'm going to crumble in the end bit of this toffeta. Just crumble that all over the top. This is going to be great because the toffeta and the roast beetroot go so well together anyway. It's going to be delicious. Okay, so there we have it ready to go in the oven. So I'm just going to pop it in the oven at about 200 degrees C until it's nice and set all the way through. So that normally takes around half an hour. It kind of depends how big you make it and how thick or thin it is. Okay, so if you don't have one of these pans, you could just use a normal roasting dish or a cake tin or any kind of oven safe dish you like. The rest of the leftovers is this lovely nutty stuffing, which is just full of nuts and lentils and oats, which just already makes a great base for a meatball. So you could do Italian style meatballs and have them with spaghetti and a rich tomato sauce. But today, as it's so wintry, I really feel like having it with Swedish style with mashed potatoes and some steamed broccoli. And actually I also have some leftover cranberry sauce which needs eating. In Sweden they normally serve meatballs with lingonberry jam, so cranberry sauce isn't far off lingonberry jam really, so it's going to go really well. Okay, so what you want to do is squish it all together into a mixture. I'm just going to get a pan ready first. Nice big frying pan is good for this because you want them to be spaced out, and get it preheating on the stove with a little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil. When I say little, I mean a generous bit of each, like so. You just get that melting on the hob while we make the meatballs. Okay, so we just, only way to do it really is get in there with your hands and just squish it up. Okay, if it's a bit dry, you could add a little touch of stock, that just to loosen it up a bit, but you want it to be so that it can form into a ball and stick together, so make sure you don't make it too wet. If it's a bit too wet and sloppy, then just add some more breadcrumbs or oats. So it's at that stage now where I can form it into little balls. So I'm just gonna roll it up into these kind of size balls and chuck it straight in the pan with the melting butter and oil. And in the meantime, I'm boiling some potatoes and steaming some broccoli. You want to start off with the pan quite hot and then turn it down to kind of medium low so that they heat up all the way through. You could do these in the oven as well. Every now and then just move the pan around, make sure they're all cooking evenly. Okay, so just keep them moving around in the pan. You could use some tongs just to make sure they get cooked evenly on each side. They're looking great already and they smell amazing. And I'm going to get an oven dish ready. And once they're browned on all sides, I'm just going to keep them warm in this oven dish in the oven while I make the gravy and the mash and everything like that. And that will make sure they cook all the way through to the middle as well. Okay, the meatballs, the stuffing balls are cooked on each side. So I'm just going to tip them into this roasting dish and get that in the oven. And while I'm in there, I'll check on the farinata as well. It's looking good. It's still got a bit of a wobble, but it's getting there. Okay, so now I move on to the gravy. So I'm just going to tip this into the frying pan that the meatballs are in. I'm going to swirl out the last of the juices with some extra water. And then I'll just let that heat up a bit. I'll taste it for seasoning. And then I'm just going to add a dash of this lovely oat cream, or you could use soy cream. And there we have it. So mashed potato, some Swedish style stuffing meatballs and broccoli. And instead of the lingonberry jam, we've got some cranberry sauce. So a really nice wintry meal and a great way to use up leftover stuffing. And the farinata is also done. Doesn't it look amazing? So my trick for getting it out of the pan, I normally just use a palette knife. Just go around the edges. Just get a sharp knife and cut it into whatever size wedges you like. I normally cut it into 8. And then just let it cool down. And then I'm going to pop it into boxes in the fridge for lunch tomorrow. Or you could eat it hot now with some side salad, some ferments and some chutneys or dips or whatever. It's easy as that.